Good night, Marcia. Good night, Maxine.
Hi, Glyne, how are you?
I'm good. I'm in pretty good shape. Glad to join you in this matter. I would say that there's a concept. I believe both of you all know that concept, no, revisionism.
Yes.
What's you said?
Revisionism.
What's the concept?
Revisionism.
Yes.
Revisionism as
Mhm.
a policy and a concept. And it normally happens in countries where there's an overthrow of a government and they want to change the ideology and all the teaching, all the principles, and all the standing. You want to revise it there. And it seems to me that that's what this government is hell bent on. Without due regard, without due evaluation, for consideration of the purposes that these practices and symbols and things have stood in the test of time and Bible, just because they want to put their own stamp on things. I sometimes they make me feel that everything we did that was good for Barabbas was being it's in danger of being thrown away because it's seen as quote unquote colonial.
Hmm.
Right? Not that we have not had an input into what we call colonial. Because what we are doing is not cannot be a pure representation or original representation of colonialism. 500 years later, 400 years later, can't be. So it means that we have influenced what we have and has shaped it into the Barbadian persona and the Barbadian identity. That's what we have to recognize. So, but sometimes I wonder, and it's a thing that I had at my back of my mind to probably address properly. But I wonder what what gives the prime minister the authority and all those wrong who think like her, practice, they think that they know better, that they have come in 8 short years, they have 7 short years, they have encapsulated all the historical collective wisdom of Barbados the last 400 years, and now they know better and they know than anybody else. Why? How? And I think that's something that I would address in a different way. Um, but it's a dangerous practice,
Yeah.
and I want to commend Rose for the detailed work she did. I myself was offended by the way they caught even by the way the flag was draped. That is not the correct way. Like Major Bradford said, it
Oh,
goes.
you know the gentleman, Mr.
I,
Brathwaite?
We
yeah,
do,
no,
we do, we do.
yeah,
Okay,
a season.
I would love to get his number, but go ahead. Tell us how is it supposed to be draped, Mr. Murray?
It's the other way around. It's
It should
supposed
go,
to
the
be.
flag should go that way, not this way. It should be. I
It should
mean, the
be
trident should be
at the head.
lengthways
At the head,
at
right?
the head of the.
At the head.
So you
Oh,
would turn it
oh,
around
Turn it around.
so the
so that the
trident.
trident would be facing, instead of looking towards you, it would be facing toward it would be switched so that it goes from
North
bottom
to
to
south, so
top
to
rather
speak.
than across the side.
North to south, rather east to
Oh,
west. You're right.
Right.
And all those tassels and whatnot are an abomination.
Not on a flag.
Nothing touches the flag. Nothing adorns the flag needs no adornment. You can't gild the lily. The flag is supposed to represent all that is sacred and good, the best of Barbados. How
so
can you therefore implement the best?
Mr. Murray, take it slower there for me because and I'm so glad this show is just being run, you know,
Like the
you
movie.
like the movie. So, Mr. Murray, yours because somebody was saying that in the chat there was a discussion and a in the chat about the tassels are not to be there. You're saying?
Not, not,
Let
not,
me hear
not,
Mr.
not,
Right.
Murray.
not in that format. Not in that
No,
format.
not
Not in
that
that
one.
format. Not like that. That is
That's
not
a
that is not the
border.
way
They have
that
bordered the flag.
you've embroidered, you've embellished the flag. Then the flag cannot be embellished. The flag is supposed to be the perfection of the society. So how can you perfect perfection? What can you do to make the flag more true than it is? You get what I'm saying, Marcy?
Okay.
So
Okay.
all that they've done there is wrong. All. And
Ah,
I wonder if they're trying that they conceived that on their way to Ghana and punch in the head. 'Cause they cannot have consented unless the people in the foreign affairs who assuming they consulted them.
Probably they were
Perhaps,
consulted.
I mean
well,
this is
Mr. Murray, if I can tell you this fact, I can tell you this fact. I could tell you the name of the person, but I won't do it. Someone called me, sir, from Foreign Affairs. and ask me about how to take the remains. So foreign affairs was involved. So yeah, and it's amazing. I don't know why. Oh my God.
Because they figured, Marcia, having read the script, that there were remains and they were being, you were taking remains or something or the other, or that you had done the research and therefore a shortcut was to pick your brains.
Lazy. Like I just remember people are being lazy, want to do their work for them. You trust but verify. Even if you would try if there were things to understand, then they would check with you to clarify it. But you don't let somebody you fall lock, stock, and barrel and blindly. The person might inadvertently lead you astray and embarrass you. They're just being lazy and not informed. I won't say ignorant, that's not informed and not seeking to be properly informed.
Mr. Murray, I know you didn't come on to talk about this, and you still we took a minute of your time, but do you think, sir, that you know you're 81 now?
81, yeah, 82
Yeah,
soon.
82 soon. Let me ask you, sir, as an 81-year-old Barbadian, do you think that this should have received what happened here in Ghana should have received more national probably scrutiny and investigation of what happened with this flag in Ghana? Do you think, as somebody even said, that they should face charges or the fines, or how far should this really be taken?
I think you see nothing happened before its time. Everything has crystallized tonight to have the exposure. This kind of information, had it been known when this occurred, I think you would have had a different result, different outcome. Right? Because people would have had justifiable reason to be offended, to be angry, to be upset, to be embarrassed. But this is sometimes there, but the reaction is still as genuine and real and whatnot. So what we can do is learn from this, hold them from account and make them, let them revise let them revise their account of this and not paint it with the guilt, with the brush, the golden brush that Maxine was talking about. They're trying to form. It was she said hot and sweaty. It was something make up because anybody who's really spent time around the prime minister even before she was prime minister knows that I spent with, like I've said, 9 years around cabinet meeting with and other meetings, and very often she had to be pulled back, hauled back, because they're always in a hurry to do something quickly by a particular time, etc. If not necessarily concerning the implications, the protocols, the process, the steps that have to be done, and this is a classic example of that. This is probably something done 2 or 3 days, talking about, let me go and do this, blah, 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 gone. Go to Ghana. So this you get out what you put in. This is sloppy. It's an embarrassment to Barbados. And anybody who had a hand in it should apologize to the country. The Prime Minister at some point should come and apologize to the country. I haven't done it this way. I mean, that's hope against hope. But the proper thing to do would be to do that. And I say no more at this stage.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is just an interesting night, the way this has gone. And Miss McLean, we ask if you want to stay on. I am going to deal with it, just to let the two of you know, I'm jumping in some hot water tonight. After Mr. Murray, I will be dealing with the issue with Patrick King and that post that he's put up with the voice, the alleged voice of the deceased, Mr. Alvin Toppin, and I really want to deal with that. So if you guys want to stick around, I don't want to draw you anything before.
No, I will stay, Marcia, because somebody
right?
sent it to me, and I had to tell the person I found it in extreme poor taste. But so I will stick around. I will listen more than say, because
all right, no problem.
I found it extremely upsetting on many counts.
Right. So we will deal with that at that time, right? So guys, we are going to deal with that after Mr. Murray. And but let's go right now into Mr. Murray's presentation. Go ahead, Mr. Murray.
As you see on the screen, my topic tonight is national backwardness, PSV wealth exchange for money. And I'm using a distinction between wealth and money. I am like Maxine's talk about. Uh, you're familiar with the analogy about the dog and the bone, where the dog saw the shadow. He was crossing the river. This is what I remember the story. Remember as a little boy, and he looked down and saw this bone reflect the water, and he let go of the bone in his mouth for the shadow he saw. In other words, you go for something seemingly more attractive and
Right.
meaningful, and lose the real substantial. So to say, so where the exchange wealth for money, and I will shortly define from the research I've done the difference
Mhm.
between wealth and money. But this is a topic that's been in my head for a couple of years now, and I figured I had to do it because it was getting being pushed back by other events, and I felt that even though the country is rightfully concerned or wrapped up in seeking to grapple with this surge of crime, this orgy of crime almost.
Mhm.
I thought to bring this to the because I thought it was because what I'm going to talk about has as much implications in a way and can do as much damage to Barbados or has probably already begun to do so much to Barbados as crime. Probably even more enduring than a crime wave. If it's a wave, it has a temporary nature. What I'm saying, what I'm dealing with, really has to do uh, with with long term. Well, if you look at the definition of money, money, a tangible medium of exchange, carrying a stored value and serving as a unit of account for goods and services. So it's a means of facilitating exchange and life and transaction. That is money. Wealth, on the other hand, if you can bring up wealth for me, Dave, wealth, on the other hand, has a more fundamental uh, and consequential wealth. Both tangible and intangible assets able to contribute to the well-being, stability, growth, and prosperity of individual groups and nations. So I'm saying, and for a long time we've been seeing and focusing on the PSV, or what we call the minibus culture, the minibus phenomenon activities, because of the indiscipline and the misbehavior, like all the negative things they provide a national service, provide a social service, but the implications of the things that have grown out of the activity have done great harm to the uh, culture of Barbados, the popular mass, especially children and people who are easily influenced our culture. But there's another manifestation that we have not really paid attention to, is that the PSV sector did not come out by accident. Maxine might be too young to know that before the Transport Board, Barbados was serviced by a series of private concessionaires, Rockland, Progressive, where they were privately owned. And then in
Old enough.
19, right, oh, okay. You probably know the one that went down Black Rock, Turnout Wall, Malodge, etc., owned by Mr. Stewart. But in 1955, those private concessionaires wanted to hold the country up to ransom by wanting to increase the bus fare. And Grant Lee Adams, who was the premier, then said no, the country could not afford it. It was too hard on the public. And he nationalized the service. That is how we got the transport, right? And so it was then supervised and managed by government. They said on fares and routes, etc. There was until then, when Grant Adams, Tom Adams became prime minister, he came up with the process of the PSVs, where it was intended that, as he had observed from his talkings to me in London, where the black cabs, the famous black London taxi cabs, there's a permit, which I'm not sure in his time, his idea was a permit would become an asset, which you will, which was meant to generate intergenerational wealth. You can pass on to your children, your grandchildren, and keep that sector as a source of wealth creation for the black Barbadians. Because he said that the white sector of Barbados had the big businesses and the plantation, the land. There was at Eastern said the Indian quarters, for use of a term, people from India, the Arabian states, who had their businesses, and the black persons had no businesses, and they needed a source of generator wealth. So the permit was intended to be kept within families in order to be passed on from generation to generation over a long period of time. And he got, I remember he got a good indication that the money that was being generated by the people in the PSV sector, when he was preparing, when we were preparing for Carry Fest in 1981, he had a meeting with the PSV sector to ask them to come up, make a proposal and what they'll charge, because we had to have vehicles to transport the delegation back and forth to various events and what. As a matter of fact, there's an ad in today's newspaper from quite coincidentally, from the National Culture Foundation inviting applicants to make contact with NCF to be able to provide these same services under certain conditions. So he asked them what they were charged, and he charged, and he gave them virtually what they want. He said, okay, this is what you said you make on a day and a week. I accept that. But then he used that information. He's realized that if according to them, this is what the wealth that they were generating, the money, the finances that they were generating, therefore they could pay higher license fees, and therefore increase the license fee based on their own information that he gave to them. And therefore he felt that his father had brought about political enfranchisement by giving the right to vote in 1951. He wanted to bring about economic enfranchisement so that people could pass on. Because we've had a traditional problem in Barbados where very few black businesses ever survive more than a generation, perhaps 2 generations. So rather than not only intergeneration, but it would intergenerations between 1 and 2 generations, transgenerations across, which could go on for a long. He wanted to see that happen. He wanted to see that happen in Barbados. Not just on the reality, because you can't just give people political enfranchisement, political power, and let the inequalities in the society financially, wealth-wise, retain. You're sowing the seeds of dissatisfaction and resentment that which led to 1937, and this would have been all over again. So therefore, he put this program in place with the PSVs in order to create this vehicle for the generation of wealth in Barbados. And you might understand why am I bringing this up now. There have been persistent reports over the years that the people who originally owned the public service vehicle permits, who were the working class Barbadians, that it was gradually slipping out of their hands and control for one reason or another. I don't know if Maxine herself had heard these stories, but there was I think this would be a separate. I will do it that next time as to, but they were losing control. In other words, the means towards wealth was being, they were losing grip and losing that thing. Maybe through the fall, because they were selling. They were supposed to be selling and leasing and lending, all kind of arrangements. And therefore it was defeating the purpose. And that is something I look at next week, because this sector is supposed to be managed and supervised by the Transport Authority. Barbados Transport Authority is a separate entity which came into being in around 2007. They bring regulation and discipline, etc., etc. So we would have to examine it. I'd like to explore why this moving away from the philosophical moorings, from the realistic and practical considerations to benefit Black Barbadians as they disperse as generators of wealth. And we're talking about on property. Money is money. I was wondering, Marcia would know what they're saying. I've never heard the average Barbadian say somebody's wealthy or rich. They say he got money, she got money, as though in our mind money, to have money is to be wealthy. But in truth, wealth involves property, stock and shares, investment, much more than the money. Money is transactional, and it doesn't have the debt and the security and the longevity as well, right? So I think as though because we see, I think I would speculate that because we have this traditional way of saying once you got money, that there's enough. That people have been enticed, lured, whatever it is, to to sell, lease, get rid of, transfer. They said, I'd rather hold on to the wealth generating. They fell for like the dog jumping at the shadow and losing the bone. So the money is the shad, the bone will be the wealth. And I think that might have been contributed to to that attitude in that regard, and among other factors which I will talk about next week. But I thought, therefore, that it's important that we pay attention to this thing because while I was able to get some information, because this is not a small issue. I was able to get information only about a year ago. There were nearly 10,000 permits, 9,700 something about a year ago, permits that had been granted. So this is a mammoth. And while it was meant that it would be single-owned permits, they have been consolidated into groups, companies, persons, etc. And there's no doubt that the wealth and people who the black Barbadians that I know of who have done well, who've had some of these permits have done well. Some have built garages, built apartments, and who their children have become big out of the wealth, the money generated out of things, and they've invested it in long term. So if you then give up this, you are giving up that means of generating long-term wealth for you and your family, your descendants, to another group. And we already said the black Barbadians were we had experienced a quiet political and social revolution through the power of the right to vote, right? Through adult suffrage, political everything. Barbados changed its behaviors and its objectives because we were able to elect governments that were not working for themselves and the money sector, but for the masses, and they've improved the country. Nobody can deny that. Whether even when as colony happened, and we are a better society today because of that. So to give up that ability, we have to go further and look at the economic inequalities. Here we are, the majority of black Barbadians, but control the wealth in the country. So this was an attempt to try to equalize the situation, to remove that distinctions. But if then, to do others, if this is reversed, if this is cut short, if it is diverted, if it's perverted, if it's corrupted, it means that we are diverted. Barbadians now and future will be the worst off. And that wealth will go in other direction, which already have wealth that has not existed among the majority population of the black population. And therefore, I feel that this is something we need to examine. We need to examine. It has a lot of social implications. There's no secret. If you study the profile of the public sector, of the PSB sector, look at the organizations. There's one organization now where the president and spokesperson is an Indian. There was a time when the spokespersons or black Barbadians, the officers, there was and the ownership by the Indians that I'd heard about was in the background. Now they have apparently so well established themselves that they'll come to the public and be the face. Other people fronted a face. So now that tells you something is what's happened with that source of wealth. And I think it's an area that you have to pay attention to. Otherwise, like I said, we will pay the price long after I'm gone, probably long after we're gone. And we have to ask, by what means has this mammoth switch occurred? Has there been political involvement? has the because when we talk about the Indians, we normally talk about Indians as one monolithic group, but they're different. They're the Hindus, they're the Muslims. Some come from India. Then we tend to lump person with the same physical characteristics as all Indians when some come from the Arabian states, etc. So what we call them all Indians. And they themselves, like I said, possess their medicines. And it will be we look at the door, we become even a greater minority, probably at our own expense, because the persons who control the political system have been black. The people in the transport authority has largely been black. So how is it? How has this transformation? How has this shift occurred? Next week we'll read. Next week to give you an idea what are the responsibilities of the transport authority. How it's supposed to be the things it's supposed. Okay, sales and leases and transfers should only be done through the authority. In fact, they're not right through the authority, not on any individual basis. So how has this massive, for what I understand, transfer of ownership occurred? Who was complicit? Who was complicit? Well, facilitated along with the coming of the Indians to Barker, make their contribution to the developer buyers. They made money, they contribute, and they benefit from it. So they're right, it is fair. They sell and trade it to the benefit of Barbie. They made money, fine. Just like the white state, just like some blacks who find no problem with that. But from all appearances, from what I've been able to research, certain practices came with that. A different race, a different culture, a different business culture, different practices which had not been traditionally known in Barbados, and therefore have those things that we've heard about informally. I'm not sure how much literature there is. I don't know if Maxie knows. You spent time in the business world and Manchester, where if there are any studies done in this in Barbados, I've come to any conclusion. But to what extent have these things changed the character and nature to make this transfer of wealth possible? Those are the questions that should be asked. And what can we do to reverse it? If the system is wrong, correct the system. I know that if you read the online material about the operations of the transport authority, they have specific goals, objectives, processes for interviewing people who, if you apply for a permit, you should have an interview in the interviewing panel and process, meeting circle. Right. So if that is so, what would have facilitated this to bring about this thing? And it is something that that like I said, repeating myself, but just for emphasis, we need to pay attention to it and ask some questions, do some investigations, hold the people account, because it's a backward step. It really is a backward step. We're reversing. Here was a ready-made source of wealth that has gone away.
Bring us back center. And that is not decent, and that is not right. Go ahead, Mr. Murray. Thank you so much.
Let me get back in. Yes, thank you very much, Marcia and Maxine and Rose. I fortunately do not participate in so-called social media. I've never participated, so I don't have any regard for it, because the social media in Barbados has replaced, before the technology that allows it existed, the gossip, the bad talking, the bad mouth would take place in person, in a rum shop, at a standpipe, in the bus, on the telephone. But now you have this platform where everybody wants to perform, and because the perverted sense of importance. America and the Warhol said in 1950s that eventually everybody will have their own 15 minutes of fame. So they're all seeking attention. And Patrick King is you hear about a hard hand, a hard gun. He's a hard mouth. So I stopped listening to him after he was taken care of in the course by David Ellison. So don't listen to him anymore. He has not learned his lesson. So there's nothing. Somebody sent me that posting you're talking about. I refuse to listen to it because Mr. Toppin was a very good friend of my son Stokely. As a matter of fact, he always would credit Stokely of giving him the first job, the first gig in the DJing. And then I got to talk to him on the phone for a couple of times. Probably last time was about 2 weeks ago. And may I say that he's easily one of the most equipped persons I've seen, one of the best equipped young person who's prepared himself for this role. When I talk to him, I ask him certain questions, he either did it, he knows about it, and he was very, very organized, very structured, very prepared. And I think both St. Lucie and Barbados will suffer a tremendous loss about him. I prefer to remember him. I don't want to hear. Please remember that the technology there allows AI to simulate people's voices, exactly. So you don't know what to trust or what. So I don't want to hear it. I just want to say that it's a big loss to Barbados, to St. Lucie, to the DLP. But he was a young man, only 52, 53, still relatively young man of quality, head, organization, effort, work ethic. He had all the characteristics of making a good member of parliament. He's one of the best he's one of the best I've dealt with in that regard, and I've been dealing with him for over the years, and I think that's a very high compliment. And he will live on in those days, and not to the thing are just flotsam and jetsam and garbage on the public side. So that is how he will pass. He will wash away. He will go in the gutter. He will go in the trash can in public esteem, because that is all he is.